constipation. But again, it should only be given in smaller amounts because these are monogastric animals. They cannot handle a high amount of fiber. And again, when we want an animal to lose a bit of weight, that's when now we put a bit of fiber now to their diet. But when we put too much, what happens is digestibility is affected. Digestibility, when you give the animal food, you want all the nutrients to be digested, all of them to be assimilated by the animal so that it benefits from those nutrients. But when there's too much fiber, the digestibility is affected. And so the animal loses out. It cannot absorb those nutrients the way it's supposed to absorb them. And stuntedness can also happen. So there are limitations in the way animals handle fiber. The smaller the animal or the younger the animal, it means it cannot have the proper capacity now to digest fiber. So these are some of the recommendations that you find depending also on the breed. You find that for pigs that are up to weaning stage, they can only handle about just 2% of fiber in the diet. Growing animals, the winners up to about 25 kg to market weight, they can handle maybe 5%. For sows, because they are older, the digestive system is already acclimatized, it can handle high amounts of fiber, but over 20%, I think the performance of animals will be affected. So this is what you should take note as we are buying our number 3 meal. Pigs cannot handle high amounts of fiber in their diet. We have to limit as much as possible. It could affect performance. It means the growth rate will be affected. It will be slowed down. The other categories that we have is fats or lipids. Lipids which are divided, which can either be fats or oils. Lipids, they tend to have, the energy content is very high. When you compare them to carbohydrates, you find that they've got 2 times the amount of energy. You find that the carbohydrate, they supply energy, but also fats can also supply energy, but they are also limited. You cannot put too much oil in the food, in the feed of these pigs, no matter how much, even if they've got a higher energy content. So the whole role of fiber in the diet of an animal is to help in insulating and also temperature regulation, and also providing that insulation that they need. Fats, when they are stored underneath the skin of an animal, they are the ones that protect the animal from the cold environment. They come in handy to protect and also maintain that body temperature. So there's also a limitation in how much a pig can handle. At least it should not be over 5%. Otherwise, palatability or intake will be affected when it's too much. So some examples of oils and that are on the market: sunflower oil, coconut oil. Those are the ones that can be used in the diet of an animal. Too much of the fat, it can affect the meat quality, and it should not exceed 5% in the diet. So now, why do we have to add the oils or the fat to the diet? Some of the reasons is just reduce the dustiness. Sometimes the rations, they tend to be too dusty, and they affect also the pigs, because as they are eating, maybe it gets in the eyes and all those things. You can reduce that dustiness, and also you want to improve a bit of palatability, but not too much. You can't add too much because, again, palatability will be affected. And you want to add energy to the diet. We already mentioned that it's got twice as much energy as the carbohydrates. So the other category of nutrients are the vitamins. These are the ones that are needed now for any physiological action that happens in the body: growth, development, maintenance. Vitamins and minerals, they come in handy, and these are needed by the animal. Where you can get them from: the grains. As you are supplying the grains to the animals, the maize, the wheat, it already has some bit of vitamins, but again, they are supplied as a vitamin premix or a mineral premix. So vitamins and minerals, they can be supplied as a premix, and these are not very expensive. At least farmers can afford. So some of the important minerals that the animal needs: sodium, calcium, phosphorus, zinc, copper, manganese, they are needed, but we've already known some of them that are found in the market. Dicalcium phosphate, monocalcium phosphate, they are added to the diet. They are the ones that are used now in the body. The body processes muscle contraction to maintain even the bone structure. They are the minerals. Then one of the important things also that an animal needs, a pig needs, is water. Make sure that water is provided at all times. The rows of water, hydration, the animal, or the body, the whole body is made up of, it's got fluids. So to maintain that fluid, the normal fluid in the body is water that is needed. And also for absorption and digestion of nutrients, the water is needed. And temperature regulation, when a pig is feeling hot, it tends to drink water. It's got limited capacity to sweat, so the only way it can cool down is by drinking water or wallowing in that muddy pools. So water is very, very important for the pig, and also to get rid of the waste through urine and through feces. And a pregnant animal or a lactating animal, it needs also water. Milk is basically about 90% water. So a lactating animal also needs a lot of water. So make sure when you're keeping pigs, water has to be supplied at all times. It has to be available to the animal at all times. And when there's no water, definitely feed intake is affected. Pigs, they like when they're eating, they also have access to the water. So now pigs undergo rapid growth and development. If you look at this picture, it's just a graph showing what happens, how fast a pig grows. It's got 3 stages. If you follow my pointer, you find that by the time a pig is born, the first few days, the growth is very slow. But within a week or so, there's fast growth that happens. And after that fast growth, immediately after maturity, the growth tends to slow down. So the stages in the growth is the same as other animals. When an animal is born, there are 3 stages. There's a period of a short period of slow growth, then a period of fast growth, and then when it reaches maturity, it slows down and almost becomes a bit constant. So now this growth cycle, what happens is when you're feeding animals, you have to follow the physiological way in which animals grow. There's a period of rapid growth. The period of rapid growth should be associated with the period when you give your animal nutrients that support that fast growth of the animal. When it's not growing as fast, you can also limit the amount of nutrients that you give. So what am I saying? When you're feeding pigs, you don't have to give a standard feed to all the animals on the farm. It means you're making a mistake because when you look at the animals, we've got pigs. There are different classes of pigs on the farm. You've got winners, you've got piglets, you've got winners, you've got growers, you've got all these animals like the sow and the boar, which are already mature. So when you're giving you're giving feed to the animals, you have to follow what are you really trying to achieve. Is it growth? Is it maintenance? So you give accordingly, according to the way the animal grows. That's when now you can achieve you can achieve now your objective. So in Zambia, we've got the Zambia Bureau of Standards. I think you've heard of it. This is a body, ZABS, it's called ZABS for short. It's the one which monitors the feed that is put on the market. And the reason for monitoring feed is to make sure farmers, you and me, are not manipulated in any way. They put up standards so that feed manufacturers, anyone who is putting anything that is for sale, it has to have a certain standard, a certain requirement. And these feeding standards, they follow the growth performance, the standard growth performance that I've already showed you. You find that when an animal is growing, definitely it needs more nutrients. They categorize the type of feed that should be on the market and the type of nutrients that should be there in terms of protein, in terms of energy, and everything that should be put in the feed so that farmers benefit from it. So there are 4 categories of feed that are recommended to be sold on the Zambian market. There is creep feed, there is grower feed, there is finisher feed, sow, dry sow, boar, and goat feed. These are the ones that are recommended for sale on the market according to the ZAB standard. So each country has got its own regulatory body that regulates the type of feed on the market and the recommendations on the nutrients that are supposed to be put up when they are formulating all these. So all the feed manufacturers should all follow this standard. And these standards are always revised, and the revision comes in when all these feed manufacturers, they tend to sit together with research institutions and agree what to put on the market. So each time you find that maybe your pigs are not performing very well, you've bought feed from a certain company and it's not performing very well, and you're suspecting the feed, you can actually take the feed, take it to the laboratory where they can actually analyze and give you the content. If you find that actually they are being duped, you can sue these companies. So that's why it's very important that whenever you're buying feed, you always buy from a company that is registered, because you are protected. When you find that the feed is not performing well and it's true, they are not putting what is there on the market, you can report them and they can be prosecuted. So those are the standards. Script feed is the feed that you give to piglets up to 8 weeks. Grower feed is from 8 weeks to approximately 55. Finisher, it's the feed that you give to pigs that are over 55. And then the breeding stock, this is the feed that is there according to the standards on the Zambian market or somewhere there. So now the nutritional requirements of these pigs, they also vary. We already looked at the growth curve. The animal that is growing needs a lot of protein. Protein is for building muscle. So an animal that is growing, it means it needs a lot of protein in its body. So when you're formulating feed, you're buying feed, the protein content is always high to support that physiologically high demand for protein. It means you have to give protein feed that is high in protein so that the animal can grow faster. So if you look at this, the creep feed has got 20 to 22% crude protein, and the energy content is 3,500 kilocalories. Grower, just like that, you find that it's decreasing as the animal is growing. There's creep feed, grower, finisher, then boar and sow ration, which is slightly slower in crude protein content, and the crude protein comes from the protein sources. The most expensive nutrient in the ration of an animal is the protein. It's what makes the feed to be expensive. And if you've noticed, it's the feed that you give the younger ones, which is more expensive than the feed that you give the adult ones. And in big production, I've noticed people tend to buy the feed that is cheaper. Then you start rationing and giving it to the younger animals. So what you're doing is you're not giving them as much protein that they need for them to grow faster. I find that actually the growth will be affected because they're not getting that protein that they're supposed to get, the amount that they are supposed to get. So if you look at this table, it's showing the amounts of protein that are needed in the diet of the animals. You find that creep feed, this is for the piglets before they are weaned and shortly after they are weaned. It's supposed to have a high protein content. The growers, when you wean them, it's supposed to have 18%. As you are going towards finishing, towards marketing, the protein content reduces. The sows, boar, it's more like a maintenance ration. It should have 12% or 14% protein, depending on the feed manufacturer. There is always that range that is followed, but it should not be outside the ranges. You find that the feed you've bought is 9% protein. You can go and complain, or when the recommendation maybe is 12. So these are the recommendations, and they are not static. It's just showing you exactly why we need to feed a particular class or feed a particular feed. You should not swap to say, I'm going to feed this sow ration to the piglets. It means you are underfeeding them. They're not getting the nutrients they're supposed to get. So maybe I can stop here and maybe invite questions. As you are thinking of the questions, energy that is consumed by the animals. You give energy sources, protein sources. Protein is not stored in the body of an animal. You give too much protein, it's wasted. It comes out as waste in the feces, in the urine. Energy, that is, if you give too much of the energy, the body will just get what it needs. It will store it as fat. So make sure you always know how much to give the animal. If an animal is getting overweight, just know that you're giving too much energy. So may I invite questions?
I'm in class.
Hello? Questions, please.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. I was just looking at the classification in just the last chart that you showed concerning the clip, the grower, the finisher, but there is something that we normally buy, like the winner feed.
Oh, okay.
Is it also necessary? Because I've just seen clip, grower, finisher in this category. And maybe you can shed more light on the winners, because we have been buying winner. Maybe it could not be necessary for us.
Okay, or it's classified as winner feed. Where do you buy it from?
Novatech.
Oh, okay. So winners, they fall under growers actually. So the name may just be different. So a winner is a growing animal. So some companies may call it grower feed, some may call it winner feed. I think it should be okay.
Okay, noted. Thanks.
Yeah, it should be okay. Any other questions? Yeah, good evening. Yes.
I just want to find out on the bread meal issue. You said we can use bread meal as a protein source. Now I'm just assuming